Hello sports fans, welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 2 UFL predictions. So last week I had a record of 2-2, and obviously last week was Week 1, so that's my record on the season. Starting things off with the game on Friday, and that is the Stallions at the Panthers. And we will have a live watch for this game starting about 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, so I hope to see you guys there. But this is a really interesting game and a playoff rematch from last season. The Stallions, they're coming off a very disappointing loss to the Defenders, and they're looking to avoid an 0-2 start, but they get a very tough matchup as they have to go to Michigan and play a very good Panthers team, coming off a solid win over the Showboats. The Stallions offense really struggled last week with just 11 points, but they're going to stick with Alex Magoo at quarterback, and I like the move because I think he gives the Stallions the best chance to win with his mobility, with how bad the Stallions offensive line was last week. Now the Stallions do need the offensive line to play better because they can't be allowing 8 sacks per game, but when the Stallions release their depth chart, there was no changes along the offensive line. And that could be a problem, because they faced a great Panthers defense that allowed just 12 points last week, and they have a great pass rush, led by last season's Defensive Player of the Year, Breland Speaks. And on the flip side, the Panthers are starting Bryce Perkins at quarterback, which is definitely the right move after he played very well last week in the win over Memphis. And he faces a Stallions defense that is very good, although they weren't the greatest against the pass last season, allowing 211 passing yards, which is the most any team allowed in Week 1. But this is a very tough game to predict, and I can see this game going one of two ways. One, I can see Skip Holtz having the Stallions ready to play, wanting to avoid an 0-2 start, and I can see them bouncing back and picking up the win. But I can also see the Panthers pass rush dominating, similar to the Defenders last week, and I can see the Panthers getting the win plus their home. But I am going to take the Panthers to get the win. For the home team, they looked better last week, and I still think this is an incredibly talented Stallions team and a very good team, but I just trust the Panthers a little bit more after what we saw from last week, and I've got the Panthers with the win by a score of 20-13, and if the Stallions lose this game, it'll be the first time they lost back-to-back games since the relaunch of the USFL in 2022. Moving to the game we have on Saturday, and that is the Showboats at the Defenders. This is another game that is interesting. The Defenders looked really good last week in their upset win over the Stallions, and they faced a Showboats team that's got a lot of potential, although they lost to the Panthers. But the Showboats, they'll have head coach Ken Wisenhunt back for this game after he missed last week's game due to personal reasons. And the Showboats, they need to make a decision at quarterback. They've listed E.J. Perry as their starter, although, like last week, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Perry as well as Troy Williams. The Showboats will also need their offensive line to play better after they allowed 3 sacks last week, and faced a Defenders defense that had 8 sacks. And overall, the Defenders defense played a really good game. Then the Defenders offense was also pretty good last week, despite not being able to run the ball, as Jordan Tiamu played pretty well, and I definitely think he can have another good game for the Defenders. And the Defenders, they match up offensively against a Showboats defense that is quite good. But this is a game that I can definitely see going either way. I can see the Showboats with the win if they can get good quarterback play, but I just don't trust the quarterback play right now for the Showboats. I think it'll be better throughout the course of the season, but until they really find one guy and stick with him, I don't trust it right now. And because of that, I'm going to take the Defenders to get the win. They're home as well, and I'll take the Defenders by a score of 21-16. Moving to the couple of games we have on Sunday, starting off with the Roughnecks at the Renegades. So the Roughnecks, they were terrible last week in their loss to the Battlehawks, and the Renegades were very impressive in their blowout win over the Brahmas. The Roughnecks offense was terrible with Anthony Brown at quarterback, although he will be getting the start again this week. Now, I don't hate the move because head coach C.J. Johnson said he won the starting job in training camp, and I definitely think it makes sense to not completely give up on him after one game. But if Anthony Brown struggles again, or if the Roughnecks start to fall behind, I don't think they should hesitate to put in Nolan Henderson. But the Roughnecks offense faces the Renegades defense that played extremely well last week, allowing just 9 points and 240 total yards. Then on the flip side, the Renegades offense was great with 33 points, and they were dominant on the ground with 183 rushing yards on 5.9 yards per carry. And that is a terrible matchup for the Roughnecks, who couldn't stop the run last week, allowing 273 rushing yards and 6.7 yards per attempt. But this is a game that I don't think should be that close. The Renegades, they looked great. The Roughnecks are easily the worst team in the league, and I don't really think it's close. This game is a blowout. I've got the Renegades winning big, 27-3. And our final game, we've got the Brahmas at the Battlehawks. This is a really interesting matchup, and we actually get a playoff rematch from last season. And in that playoff game, the Brahmas won 25-15. But the Brahmas, they were not good in the season opener, losing 33-9 to the Renegades, and they face a Battlehawks team that looked great, winning 31-6 over the Roughnecks. The Brahmas offense struggled last week, putting up just 9 points, although I do expect them to improve. His quarterback Kellen Mond is still learning the offense, and they've also had a great run game and a great group of receivers. Although they do have to face a Battlehawks defense that was great last week, allowing just 170 yards. Then on the flip side, the Battlehawks offense played really well last week with 460 yards, and 273 of those came on the ground. And that is not a good matchup for the Brahmas, as they were run over by the Renegades last week, allowing 183 rushing yards on nearly 6 yards per carry. Although I do like this Brahmas team, I definitely think they'll improve over time on both sides of the ball. I just don't see it happening so quickly. I've got the Battlehawks getting the win here. I think they'll be able to run the ball effectively. They were great last week, and they're home, and I've got the Battlehawks with the win, improving to 2-0 on the season, and beating the Brahmas in a fairly close game, 22-16. But those are my Week 2 UFL predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. Be sure to check out the community tab of my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think will win this week's games. But that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.